Happy Saturday. I have no idea what time it is. It's 5:30 in California, San Francisco, and I'm here with Liz and our special guest, Lucia. So I'd love to introduce our special guest. Lucia and I met on the Biliary Atresia research page. I had posted a picture, and we actually have the same transplant surgeon, and our transplant was, mine was in February, and yours was when, Lucia?
June 21st.
Woo! Same year, 1989.
Yes, same year.
And we didn't even know each other existed. So that's power of social media. But I'd love for you to introduce yourself, and then we can kind of get into this week's topic.
All right. Hello, I'm Lucia, and I've been post-transplant for 31 years now. I'm originally from Argentina, and I moved to the States and got my transplant, like I said, in June of 1989.
Yeah.
So,
seems like yesterday, but no, it was 30 years ago.
Yeah, right. So everything's been good for me. Just had one little rejection about 6 years ago. Besides that, everything is going well, and happy to be.
And what time is it, Lucia, where you're at?
It's 7:11 here
In Texas.
in Texas.
Do you want to know a funny fact
Yeah.
about 7-Eleven? I was born at 7. No, I wasn't. Something was at 7-Eleven. Oh, now I've ruined it. Just ignore me. Oh, wait, I weighed 7-Eleven when I was born. That's right.
What a coincidence.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And it's what, Sunday your time was?
Yes, it's Sunday. I think it's just after 10 a.m. Unfortunately, the weekend's nearly over again.
It goes by so fast.
It does.
Well, I'm really excited to have you, Lucia, and I really wanted to have you join just so we could have another perspective in the mix. And this week I wanted to talk, and we all wanted to talk just about our experience of dating. For me, it's been 7 years since I've dated, but I know that as an adolescent, having a transplant kind of complicates an already interesting and sometimes tumultuous time in your life, because you're vulnerable, you're learning about yourself, you're learning about what you're looking for in a partner. So I kind of wanted to open up, like, did you, Liz or Lucia, did you ever have anyone react poorly to the fact that you had a scar or a transplant, someone maybe you're interested in romantically or just as a friend?
I'll go first. I guess not that I can remember exactly. In a relationship type, I never had a friend or anything, and I never really had a guy be turned off or anything like that either. I guess when I met my now husband, which was in 2016, I was 20, just turned 22, and he was 19. And he's very mature for his age and that sort of stuff for a lot of different reasons, and he was very understanding. I guess I'll add in the fact in this conversation, not necessarily just my scar, but about transplant. Compared to you ladies, obviously my health was very not good, my growing up with all my internal bleeding and stuff. So I was in and out of hospital, blah, 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 and which now affects my ability to have children. So I can, all my fertility and all my women parts, I guess you want to say, all works fine. But I guess that was one of the things that I had to tell him very early on. And I know it's not something you want to bring up very early in a relationship, but I'm very honest and open. And since day one, I pretty much said, this is the fact. I had a transplant. I spent a lot of time in the hospital, and I can't carry my own children. I can have my own other children other ways through surrogacy or whatever, but I can't physically carry them. So that was a big factor that played in that part. And I later learnt that he said he thought about it for a very long time, but he said, because he's always wanted children and that sort of thing. So I said, like, I don't want you to stay. I'm not going to be like, think you're a bad person or whatever. But obviously he stayed, and he said he thought about it. And I remember we were driving home from a trip one day, and I asked him, I said, are you sure? Because our relationship moved quite quickly. We met in May of 2016 and we were engaged by November 2016. And then I was married in March 2018. But within those first few months, we went on this trip and we were coming home, and I said, are you sure you're okay with this? Like, you're only 19. It's a different sort of thing to have to try and understand. And he just looked at me, and he was kind of all teary. It was a bit cute. And he said, no, because at the end of the day, I just want you. It doesn't matter what happens. But obviously, as time's gone on, and we did go into it, and we went and looked into it all, and we got the definite confirmed no last year. And obviously that's going to impact somebody in a way that they don't know. Obviously I knew my whole life, but it still impacted me in a different way as well. So, but other than that, I think that's the only obstacle I've really had with guys and dating and transplants and all that sort of thing. Everyone else has been fine. I never really, and I think the only thing I ever had was, would someone think my scar was yuck? But no, that's about it. And I never really had anyone grossed out or anything either. Well, not that I've been told.
I think guys are just so happy to like have, I don't know, a girl like around them that like they just don't care.
Yeah.
I think we're all more concerned with our own insecurities sometimes, and like seeing other people's imperfections, for lack of a better term. Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually been in the exact same boat as Liz. When I told my husband, like, I dated here and there, and I've never had any bad, results or anybody look at me and, say anything rude that I know of course. But that's the biggest challenge I've also had is having to tell my husband, or, the person that I was going to be with for the rest of my life, that I didn't know if I could have, or it could carry. I always knew, myself that I may not be able to, but we never got like confirmation. And so after we got married, or even before, we just started talking about that. And I brought it up to my doctor many a times, like, what do you think? What do you think? And it was always, you're really high risk. And I'm like, I know that, but is it a possibility? And so I kept getting kind of like not a no, but like, it may not be able to, it may hurt you in the long run, or, you may have a lot of complications. And so we've just thought, okay, well, it's not a risk that we're willing to take for myself. And then not only that, but for the child itself, once he or she is born, because I wouldn't know if I'd be around for that. And so, or even be sicker, for anything like that could happen. So anyway, I feel like that's the biggest challenge, just in a relationship, is knowing that they have to accept that. And my husband is also very mature, we're the same age, but he never really questioned that, I guess, on his end. So I got lucky with that, because I'm sure, that's something that some men would not be okay with, but in the end of it, it's mainly the person, not what you can provide. We can do that and help kids everywhere else, that through either adoption or other means. So that's what we decided.
When I had my surgery review for my hernia, one of the things that I was concerned about was, I'm going to have this piece of mesh placed, and I've never really thought of myself as like a motherly type. Like, it's not something like I've always like dreamt about. That doesn't make me less than a woman, or doesn't mean that I don't like children, but I just never envisioned myself as that. And I don't know if that's limited to the fact that I just assumed it wasn't possible. But I was in a room full for women transplant surgeons, and I just posed the question, would this affect my ability to have babies? And they just like avoided the question. Like they just like, they didn't want to say yes or no. And then when I asked the hernia doctor, the guy who was actually going to do the surgery, he said, yeah, no problem. Like, yeah, your stomach will just stretch, the baby will just fit in there and then it will stretch back. But of course he wasn't thinking about, you know, all the mechanics of everything on the inside. So, I mean, I wasn't expecting them to tell me yes or no. And I mean, I protect, you know, myself with an IUD, so I'm not able to have babies, but it's not something anyone has ever given me like a yes or a no on. So, I mean, in my relationship with Graham, it's always been that, you know, we weren't interested in having kids and that we were focusing on our career. But I think now that we're getting older, like I'm turning 32 this year, you know, that thought kind of comes up in my mind, and I haven't really gone down that path of finding out, and I'm kind of at peace with that. But it does concern me because it is high risk. And when we had these transplants as babies, like nobody, like we're the first generation of babies growing up and like having to have these conversations.
Right.
So yeah, and I mean, I have seen some transplant people like through Instagram that have had children, and I don't know them personally, haven't talked to them about it. But for now, I just, you know, kind of leave that. If it's meant to be, it'll be, and if not, then I have to be at peace with that. But it's not something that I've like gotten a definite yes or no. So that's interesting. So when you first met your partners, was there a time where you just had told them, or do you kind of like, was it just like, do you remember the moment when you said, this is something that happened to me, or was it just kind of like, oh, that's, you know, not a monumental moment?
No, I just told him it was what it was. It wasn't anything serious. I think because I played it the way I did, because that's how I grew up. It wasn't, it's serious, but it was never a stop moment, this happened. It was more of a casual, this is what's happened, that's that. I'm fine with it. Never have it not been fine with it, you know. So I've always just been, that's what it is. It's like, it's saying, to me, it was the same as saying, hey, I went to school at this school. It wasn't anything different. It wasn't anything too, obviously it's spectacular and, you know, amazing and all that sort of thing. But, you know, it's the same as telling someone that, because it's a part of me and it's part of my story. So there wasn't anything too spectacular about my story that when I told him, I think.
Yeah, same with me. I was more like, hi, my name is Lucia and I have a liver transplant. You should know this. Like, that's part of my name. I mean,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it was very normal for me too. It wasn't anything I made, like I sat down or anything. It was just kind of part of who I am.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't remember the moment either. I know that I had to tell him, like, once I knew that he was somebody that I wanted to spend more time with and like build you know, future with. So out it goes. But if you were to sit down with somebody who's like maybe 13 or 14, do you have any advice for them? Someone who, you know, has had a transplant, when they're just starting to like get interested in like dating. Is there any like piece of advice you wish that somebody else would give you or had given you?
I think for me, I used to kind of hide my scar a little bit while going to like the beach, and I didn't want everyone to find out about it. It wasn't a secret growing up, but I kind of felt like I wish I would have showed it off a little more now. Just being proud of it, and more like, you know, I didn't really have anybody, like both of you had said from the beginning, like somebody that I knew that had this. So whenever my friends, you know, in high school or even elementary school, and they would see me at the pool, you know, they'd be like, what's wrong with your, you know, what, they would look at me a little different. So maybe just not being so timid about it, and kind of sharing and teaching people about it, and letting them understand like what you've been through, and kind of, you know, give people knowledge of it and not be so hush hush.
What about you, Liz?
So, yeah, Lucia hit it on the head with that one. I would have to agree 100% with what she said. It's you. Embrace it. Embrace every part of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, you know. Unfortunately, some days are going to be harder than others. But at the end of the day, you're living your life for two people. You've got one amazing gift that a lot of people don't get or have. And, you know, just be you. I remember my nan's got this little voice recording, and it's of my pop died when I was 5, and I was really close to my pop. And when I was little, I would always walk around with my dresses over my head so people could see my so everyone could see my scar, because I wanted to show everybody. And on the voice recording, it has my pop asking me, Elizabeth, what's that scar from? And I said at the top of my lungs, it's from my Eva. I've always been proud to show and talk, and, you know, and that was from when I was 4 or 5 years old. So nothing's changed since then.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I guess I would just tell the younger me, like, there is somebody out there that will love you completely, and somebody who will accept you on your worst days, literally, when you're thinking you're so unlovable and like horrendous, that you are special and you are worthy of love. And you know, if you feel like that person's not supporting you in your health, you know, the number one thing is trying to keep that donor liver, you know, healthy and happy. And you do need a partner that supports you in some way in that, whether it's just words of encouragement or, you know, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, like, but just someone who, you know, just is accepting of that part of your story. So I would just say, you know, there is that person out there for you, and just to, you know, not to settle. Like, I remember before I met Graham, I went on some really awful dates, and I mean, I ran for the hills because I don't have time for that. You know, I don't have time to waste my time on people that aren't healthy for me, or toxic, or I wouldn't say abusive, but all of those things. Like, I have this one life that I am gifted, and wasn't promised because of, you know, the condition that I was born with. And I don't want to waste it in a relationship that's not supportive. So I know that's kind of a dark turn on the story. But I often think that, you know, when you have something that's, you could be insecure about or something, you know, you may like make concessions, but I would just say, yeah, there's trade-offs in every single relationship. There's not going to be one that's 100% perfect. But you're worthy of, you know, all the love in the world.
I think I'm going to add in here, you know, all that's right. All that's everything that I've just said myself as well. But I think one thing that I really like, that I'm blessed with Tristan, my husband, he, like, it's hard to explain, but when I'm going through being sick or whatever, I get a bit, I don't know, some days I can just be like a bit, you know, maybe I'm hormonal crazy or something. but the part that I really treasure about him is he pulls me up when I need to be pulled up as well. He can understand that even though I'm sick, that doesn't give me the right to be, you know, a mean person or acting whatever I'm doing that I don't need to be doing, or, you know, or on the days that I'm like, why me? That's fine to have those days, but it depends, I guess. It's all different circumstances and that sort of stuff. And it depends how far I go or what I say. He's able to turn around and be like, hey, enough, you know, and I really appreciate that about him. He can really pull me back into line sometimes when I need it. And that's not in a weird, you know, controlling way or anything.
Yeah.
That's like a supportive way, like, hey, you're not the only one. It's all right. We're going to get through it, you know, that sort of thing.
Kind of like not letting you feel sorry for what you're going through.
Yeah,
through.
that's right. And I think that's very much needed as well. And I think a lot of people who are sick can sometimes really use that being sick and really use it to a point that it probably shouldn't. And I've seen a lot of people be like that, and in a very bad way. And it's probably not the most healthiest thing to be. And I don't ever want to be like that, and I don't think I ever have been. But yeah, it's knowing that he's there to support you in that way, as well as looking after you and caring for you, blah blah blah. You know, being able to step up and
Give you that
treat you like someone else, like you're the next person.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. That's really good advice. Well, it's so nice to get to chat with you ladies, and so nice to see your faces. I feel left out because my name doesn't start with an L, but
You can't sit with us.
I know. And that's not Wednesday. I'm wearing pink.
I have one question for Lucia before we go. My question is, what is your thoughts of the magnitude of social media and how it can connect us, type of, whether it's our condition or our transplants or someone else who has a different health condition, and how it's able to connect us all and be able to share our stories in a way that we never thought we would be able to. What is your thoughts upon that?
Well, I've always thought social media was a blessing and a curse, because there's so much out there you can scare yourself. I think it's wild that just by going and on social media and finding people that have been through something that you've dealt with your whole entire life and never thought anybody out there could be dealing with the same as you were. Of course, to different extents, you know, you both had different experiences than I did, but knowing that there's someone that kind of understands you and being able to use social media to stay connected to them and kind of check in and have like a little buddy and say like, hey, I'm feeling this way. Is that normal? Or have you ever felt that? So just by having that connection in social media and being part of those little groups, you know, or even just being on Facebook, those Biliary Atresia groups, and seeing other people's story, kind of, it's great to be like an inspiration, but also to see and remind yourself of how blessed you are through all this. So I've actually really enjoyed social media for liver information that I never knew was out there. So, and helping me connect and see there's other women or even people that have been through this and are still living at my age as well is very inspiring. So it gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that any better myself either.
Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your night, and Liz, your full Sunday.
I will. Back to work tomorrow.
Oh, well, I'm going back to
from my office.
Oh. Oh. All right.
Thanks,
well, until
ladies.
next week. Yes. Until next week. Bye.
See ya.